Hi, thank you for joining us to talk about ProForma today. I am Nick Nader, the solution engineer here at ISOS Technology. I'm joined by Sandeep Patel, our senior business development manager.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem that we're really looking at here is, organizations in the healthcare, and then not just in healthcare, but in a lot of different spaces, want to capture a lot of information. And typically, custom fields is something that everybody tends to spend a lot of time and effort on, and really making the system, their instance, very complex, which leads down to a lot of issues when it comes to reporting, tracking, and then just making their instance a large mess eventually at some point. And prior to this, organizations tried different add-ons and things like that. ProForma was definitely a hugely used tool to really help create those forms in a consolidated way without custom fields or checklists, and capture that data in a meaningful way, and of course report against that.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw a lot of teams struggle with having way too many custom fields in their instance. It bogs down performance of your Jira instance. It's difficult to manage all of those custom fields, and people that have a lot of different pieces of information that they need to intake from a customer, really relied on those custom fields before something like ProForma existed within the marketplace and ecosystem. So it's really hitting that pain point of having too many custom fields and still being able to intake a lot of that information and really intake it at anywhere within your process, not just at issue creation at the very beginning.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think that's kind of what led to, Atlassian doing that acquisition just a couple months back in April, is really just being able to have that functionality out of the box. And especially as they kind of expand in cloud and really are pushing for the cloud, it's going to be something great for their customers. So as organizations really kind of struggle with all those custom fields, being able to create those checklists and information without really making their instance very complex, that's something that ProForma really handles well and gets organizations in a path that will help them capture that data in a meaningful way. But there's a lot more that the tool can do. Would you say so, Nick?
Absolutely. So ProForma, really comes in and gives you this full and new UI to create and author those forms, build out those dynamic forms, and it really utilizes functionality like dynamic drop downs, cascading checklists, some of those more advanced custom fields that come kind of out of the box with Jira, but they take them to the next level and allow you to create those forms with many different plug and play components. And it's a very simple form creation UI, so you don't need any development experience. You don't need to know anything about Jira administration. It's really just a UI dedicated to building out those forms. And ProForma comes like that out of the box. We're going to see it hopefully integrated natively or come natively with Jira Service Management at maybe that premium tier when they decide how to integrate that into the product. The nice part, though, is you can also push those forms into the middle of a Jira workflow, right? So it doesn't have to be the creation form for issue creation. It can be, of course, out in that portal where your customers fill out that information, but it can also be a form that's automatically attached in the middle of that process. Maybe it's an approval form or some kind of compliance form that people on the internal side need to fill out as one of those statuses within your Jira workflow. That's all possible with ProForma added onto your instance. And then the other really cool piece that I like to call out is within that portal, if your customers are entering information, without ProForma, they're not able to edit those fields after they've, requested that service management ticket through JSM. But with ProForma, those fields are actually editable out in that customer portal, and they can go in and they can change those fields or update those fields as you need more information from that customer.
So over the years here at ISOS, we've worked with a lot of clients in the healthcare, financial sectors, and the educational system as well too, where we've kind of seen clients really have a lot of data that needs to be captured and it needs to be put in place without necessarily making their systems very complex or taking them down a complexity that they can't properly report and have the information that they're looking for. So we've used ProForma quite a bit and helped implement that in these type of sectors or larger organizations. And as part of those implementations, we actually do a lot of initial setup configuration. And I think, Nick can definitely attest to some of those things that we've done and some examples that we've utilized.
Yeah, absolutely. As ISO's technology kind of already being in that space of JSM and ITSM, we always recommended ProForma when it was on the marketplace as an add-on. If anybody, didn't think that the out-of-the-box Jira forms were robust enough to tackle some of that intake information in some of those dynamic fields, we would always recommend ProForma from the marketplace. So ISO's technology is really excited that Atlassian has acquired them now, and it's going to be part of the product in the near future. You can still grab it off of the marketplace, and we will configure that application for you. When it comes to the add-ons, when it comes to any of these tools that Atlassian have acquired, we always kind of make it part of our services playbook, part of that implementation that we're going to do for your JSM instance. So if you do need to meet a more difficult use case when it comes to intake and forms, we will always leverage those most popular add-ons, especially ones that Atlassian have now acquired. And during that implementation, we'll of course build out those forms for you. We'll also try to teach you how to build out those forms so that it's sustainable, right? Teach the man to create the forms rather than create them for him, and he will forever be able to create forms within his JSM instance. And that's what we're really trying to do during our implementations. It's not just, hey, let's do this work for you. It's really about that knowledge transfer and making sure you guys understand how to utilize the add-on in the best capacity and be able to do that for the future and scale your instance. Thank you for joining Sandeep and I to talk about ProForma today. If you'd like to learn more, you can check us out at our website at isostech.com.